Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma.
The great kink capital of the world.
Yes, the great. Really, is it the great kink capital of the world?
It is not. It is not the great kink capital, but surprisingly more active than you would think. We have 2 public dungeons that I know about, and a lot of private dungeons, and many groups, and have had that for well over 20 years, like an active community.
That's awesome.
Right here in
Ladies
Oklahoma,
and gentlemen,
believe it or not.
ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with a legend. When I got into the kink community, I would see his art, I would see his books, and I thought, this person's in. This person's I want to know these people who he knows. I want to create art like he does. I want to write like he does. Years later, all these shows later, I'm talking to him now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're cool, if you're in the kink community, you should know this man. Please welcome Dirk Hooper. Say hello.
Thank you.
What's going on, Dirk? What's inspiring you these days?
Wow, what's inspiring? Not anything that's necessarily kinky. I am really enjoying Conan comics right now. They have redone all of the the Conan comics and Savage Sword of Conan, and released them through. It used to be done by Marvel Comics. Now it's being done by someone else. But the stories are great. The artwork looks like old John Buscema art, and most of this audience probably doesn't know John Buscema, but he was an incredible artist who did superhero stuff. He did How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, but his bread and butter was doing Conan comics stuff, like fantasy stuff, and he was the best at doing that sort of thing. In any case, they have kind of returned to doing that sort of thing at a completely different company. And that's inspiring me. It makes me want to do comics.
I noticed that people who love comics, they're a different sort of people, right?
Sure.
We are, right? We look at the world differently, right? We do. And I think, especially in the kink community, there are people who love comics in the kink community, and vice versa.
Well, there is
why do you think that is?
Yeah, there is a huge. I've got a theory on that. There's a huge crossover between, what I would call the kink community and the geek community, and I think that stems from just simply the geek community are people who have an exceptionally open mind. They really enjoy science fiction and fantasy. They like role playing. They like imagining that there are these different characters in these different situations. And the kink community requires that as well. You have to step outside of yourself and become someone else. And I think that some of in fact, my own experiences in the kink community probably stem from, doing kind of role playing when I was a younger person, and enjoying that process, getting into it. And I think that is what kept my mind open and introduced me to role playing stuff. And when I was older, I wanted to do that. I wanted to kind of be in new roles there. And thanks for who was that? Sunshine?
Yes, Sunshine.
Thanks for chiming in. Hey, thank you.
Sunshine says, "Welcome, Dirk. Read, ban books, preach."
Yes.
Yeah. So your book, Dominatrix Boss, this is a re-release.
It's a re-release. It was originally released about 5 years ago, I think, something like that.
So one thing, I wrote 3 books coming on the 10th anniversary of my first one. What's it like to re-release a book? So you already go through the process of writing it. It's incredibly cathartic and everything. So now you're revisiting everything. You're promoting something that you've already promoted. How do you approach that? Where do you start?
Yeah, this is the first time I've only done one complete book, and now I'm doing a re-release on that book, and that's because I'm setting up what's to come, and what's coming is going to happen within, I don't like to say specific, especially on video, specifically when I'm going to be doing these things, because stuff can happen. But I'm probably 1 to 3 months away. Hello, Stan. I'm 1 to 3 months away from releasing the sequel to the book. So I wanted to get that first book kind of aligned with where I am with the sequel. And I have a kind of an overarching plot, not just with the book, but also with my writing career. And I wanted to get the original book aligned with that new, my new methods and stuff. And how difficult is it? Well, I'm right in the middle of it. I mean, one of the things when I first released it, I released it under a pen name. So, and I had no resources set up at all for that pen name. So I released it to the void.
So no website, no background,
no website. I didn't have
character, no history, no posting,
no social media. I mean, I had nothing. While
Asher Lake never liked any of my tweets.
Right. See, yeah, that's the issue, is that person didn't exist, that entity didn't exist. And so I had to build everything up from scratch. This time, for many different reasons, I'm coming out as, I mean, it's the worst kept secret ever. Because I the first time I released the book, I said, hey, this was released by me, but it says it's written by Asher Lake, but Asher Lake is Dirk Hooper. This time around, I'm taking a little different path. I'm owning it a little clearer. Obviously, I'm doing interviews as Dirk Hooper, writing as Asher Lake. And so, what's different this time from doing it the first time? I'm trying to throw a little bit of my platform into, promoting this and getting it out there. And 5 years is a long time. I'm a better artist now, I'm a better writer now. I know a lot more about how to promote a book. So I'm trying to do all of those things differently and hopefully better.
So your book is called Dominatrix Boss. And before we talk about it, I do want to kind of set up and ask a question for. There's the book. There, show it.
There's the book. That is that's the re-release. I redid everything on it from the cover. There's 2 paintings on the cover, including the figure and the background. Totally new design, not just outside of the book, but inside the book. Has a new introduction, has a completely new design, all new illustrations, has a map of the city that they're in. And it has a, which wasn't in the first book, it has the first chapter of the sequel in it, which is people have been haranguing me for quite some time.
So Dominatrix Boss, we're going to talk about the book, but when it comes to dominatrixes, there seems to be a lot of characters, right? There's the classic dominatrix. Then you have the specialties. There's the mommy doms, handle ABDLs, diapers, littles, stuff like that. There's the sissification doms, the ones who want to turn men into sissies, lock them up in chastity, maybe pimp them out, stuff like that. There's the brutal doms. Shout out to Lunatica from France. First thing she does, she pisses in her mouth, in the sub's mouth, before they do anything. So, and then you can go into kind of weird things, like the forgetful dom, the aloof dom, the non-caring dom, the incredibly stupid dom, the dark, the methadone dom, the one that's always burning holes and stuff, and passing out and stuff like that. So I'm opening up this to the audience. So any other doms out there, any other, examples of any kind of doms, just add in the chat. But let's talk about Dominatrix Boss. Dominatrix Boss, the character of Dominatrix Boss. Please tell us all about it. Tell us about the plot. Tell us why we should read this book.
Yeah, it was written specifically for the purpose of being a fun, erotic, femdom focused novel that was a quick read, that put you in the shoes of a character named Tim, who was infatuated with the boss that he worked with, and kind of got called out on some stuff that he was doing. And she saw that his internet browsing history at work, when he was looking at stuff that he shouldn't have been looking at. And she invites him into her office and kind of plays with him and sets up a scenario where they meet after that first encounter. And she says, look, if you are interested in me playing the dominatrix role for you, then send me to someone who knows what they're doing, and I'll learn what I can, and we'll try this out. And that's the scenario that we have in Dominatrix Boss. It is set up and designed to be a quick read, and it's also set up. It's written from the point of view of Tim, so you're in his mind, and he gets put into chastity and goes down this road from the beginning of the book to the very end. And it's meant to be both a climax for him and for the reader, both at the same time. And hopefully you get wrapped up into the characters and the fun of slave training and her attempting to do what he has asked, which is to break him and make him a slave. And you'll see kind of what happens at the end of this book, but their story is not over, because I have a few more books that tells about their adventures together, and expands out into some of the other characters that are in the book, which is one of the main reasons why I have reformatted the book to kind of set that up, set up not just another book, but a whole world.
And yeah, please let people know that the book, it's not just words. It really is. There's art. There's art involved. There's other people involved. That's why I love kink books. My book specifically, the forward your forward is written by a friend of ours as well. Getting everybody together and the collaboration of different kinds of arts. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, Miss Sweet says, "Hi, Dirk and Nick."
Hey,
Miss Sweet.
I love Miss Sweet. So, she's awesome.
Miss Sweet is incredible. Friend of the show.
Yeah.
So when you first put out Dominatrix Boss, right?
Yeah.
What was the initial reaction?
Well, it's pretty amazing, to be honest with you. When you write a book, you have no idea what to expect on this, and I put quite a bit of myself into the book. I really wanted to, for this to be a good book, not just a good erotic or a good BDSM book or a good book about femdom. I wanted it to be written well. I mean, I've been writing since I was 7 years old. I won't say that the stuff that I was writing at 7 was very good, but I took creative writing in high school. I took it in college. I've written comics and a bunch of articles and stuff that's nonfiction. I see myself as a writer, and I really wanted. I felt strongly that this was something that, I didn't just want to write this book. I wanted to write more books, and so this was a learning process for me. And I wanted it to be good. But as you know, if you write something, you have no idea whether it's good or not. You have no clue. You just put it out there, and you hope and you pray that what is coming from you will be received by the community, and that they will get what you're saying, and that it won't be trash.
And if you think about it, that's what the kink community is based on. It's all about perception. People perceive you. You put on a certain outfit. You shave. You put on a certain odor or something like that. It's all how you're perceived and how their reaction to you.
Sure.
So writing a book is very sexual, in my opinion. It is. You're like making love to the world. You know what I mean? So, but
yeah,
one thing that was interesting about you is the comic aspects. You love comics.
Yeah.
I got into one thing. As someone who's into feminization, right, the sissification, I like the fetish. I don't live it 24/7, although yes, I am locked now, but still, right?
That's 24/7.
Well, no, I'm now. I wasn't.
That's the definition of 24/7.
Well, I was locked. Yeah, well, I went to a dungeon party, and it hasn't worn off yet. The party hasn't worn off yet. Shout out to Mischief Manor, Mr. Shard, and the whole crew. What were we talking about? Comics. So one of the things that really inspired me was Lustonic, right? in that with that fetish, because it was hard to at the time in the aughts. It was hard to find that kind of fetish as much. You can find it like you were today, where you could literally just go anywhere and you could see, oh my god, what's that? You had to like really search for it.
For sure.
You know, so I want to ask first of all, who are the the people who wrote comics in the BDSM culture, everything that? Who are the ones that really inspired you?
Yeah, comics in general, or BDSM comics.
Both. Why not both?
I'm not going to remember as far as the BDSM stuff. Most recently, really enjoyed the work of a guy named Stefan Sejic, who does some beautiful painted artwork with some kinky characters, kind of in a modern, like an urban setting or something. I thought that's really good. I really loved the kinky elements long ago in Heavy Metal magazine. Heavy Metal is a huge heavy metal, and all of the people who
were involved in that shit.
Do heavy metal, and including Mobius and Corbin and Chris Achilleos, and just that whole crowd was very inspirational. I'm trying to there's a guy who did black and white comics, and I actually met him in San Diego in 1990, around 95, I think, something like that, and I cannot remember his name to save my life. Unfortunately, he was a huge influence on me, and someone that I'm sure you're familiar with, which is Sardex, who was a huge influence. Who was a huge influence on me. I think that I'm correct that he was in a magazine called Leg Show. I'm not certain about that. I was blown away with his black and white art. He did pen and ink stuff, and he created these wonderful kind of femdom fantasy worlds.
Yes.
Where he would do just one illustration, but it told a whole story. I mean, it really got you locked into this fantasy world. And, he was a huge influence on, kind of the kinky stuff that I liked. But I mean, as far as other comic stuff, people who were and still are inspirational to me include Mike Mignola, Brian Stelfreeze, Matt Wagner, Frank Cho, Milo Manera. I think did I say Adam Hughes? And I could honestly sit here for another hour and talk about comic artists that did and do. Jorge Jimenez, currently he's doing Batman. That guy's amazing.
We have a question from
Great.
Stan. Oh, Stan is one of the coolest guys.
All right. Cool.
He goes, I want to give you an idea, free to inspire you to write a new kinky comic book. Imagine everybody has superpowers. How would they use it in their kinky life? So that's the Stan question. Well, I'm going to ask you the Stan question. If you had a superpower, how would you use it in your kinky life?
Right. I have been in the BDSM community since the mid 90s, and I have been both dominant and submissive during that time. More submissive when I was younger and more dominant as I grow older. I mean, if you had a superpower, one of the things that would be helpful as a dominant would be like mind control, something like that, so that you could control people whether they wanted to be controlled or not.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was thinking that just like anywhere you go, if you're like pissed off at somebody, you just go like this, and a chastity device is on them. You have the key. Someone cuts you off in the street,
right?
Boom. But what the fuck?
I have I'm going to call it a paranormal spy novel that I will be writing in the future at some point, and that's a character that has kind of a healing factor like Wolverine. And one of the things that I wanted him to be into was into female domination, because he has that healing factor. He has difficulty processing pain and that sort of thing. And so by, he can basically take whatever you can dish out. And he has some stuff in his past that he's working through. So he goes to dominatrices to, to, to work out those issues sexually,
work out those
that,
issues.
that sort of thing. And like I said, he can, he can take a lot because he has that healing factor. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way of playing with that power of his and make him vulnerable and stuff. So, a lot of the stuff that I do kind of thinks along the lines of fantasy, science fiction, and superheroes anyway.
Yeah. No, that's what creativity is all about. Stan asks a couple more questions. What about writing a story from the Dom's perspective?
The second book, which I'm not saying that I haven't announced the title on it, but the second book after Dominatrix Boss is written in first person with both the male submissive, and the female dominant. So I am actually in the process of writing that right now.
Okay, so
since I've been both, I have the background to know what the state of mind is, at least my state of mind. I don't propose to know everyone's state of mind, but I know about my state of mind in both states, both as a submissive and as a dominant.
Now, how much of the book, The Dominatrix Boss, obviously it's fiction, but you need real life experiences to make it real, right?
Yeah.
Make it realistic. So how much is it, would you say, is real, is based on actual events or inspired by any kind of actual event?
It's none of it is based on actual events, but the foundational elements of it, what's happening in there, the path that they're taking, the methods of domination, those are all from my experiences. I've like I said, I've been on both sides of this, so I know what it's like to, be in a scene both as a dominant and submissive, and I bring that to the table. I also I've for the past 20 years I have written articles about BDSM, so I know how to also inject into this a little education, a little bit about what you should and should not be doing, and about communication, and about safety, and about methods that you can use that are effective. Those are things that one of the questions a minute ago was, what was my inspiration? My inspiration for writing Dominatrix Boss goes way back to maybe 2010 or something. It took me a long time to get there, but the inspiration was I was reading Femdom books and I hated them. None of them, with the exception of maybe a small handful of Femdom books in particular, was any good at all. And none of them were addressing what I wanted out of a book. It was not out of a Femdom focused erotica.
Yeah.
I was not getting that. So I wrote the book that I wanted to read. That was my inspiration.
Stan Vladimir asks, who do you think would make a better Dom? Poison Ivy, Catwoman, or Harley Quinn?
Catwoman, definitely. I mean, she's in the outfit, folks. She's got the claws. She's definitely up that alley. I mean, that they've even played with that in the comics, in reality.
Yes.
I mean, they have played with that routine of her kind of seducing Batman, and bondage between the two of them and that sort of thing, particularly more recently. But I mean, it's always been there. Although the other two would make interesting Doms for sure.
Miss Sweet says, I love your creativity and intertwining kink education into fantasy fiction. Yes, that's why
that was one of the reasons also.
Me too.
That was one of the reasons also, is that I wanted something. Look, I don't have to tell anyone who's watching this show that 95% of the stuff out there is written by people who don't know a damn thing about BDSM. They've never experienced it firsthand. They don't do any research. Let's talk about E.L. James, who wrote 50 Shades of Grey.
Let's talk.
She had no idea what she was talking about. She was writing vampire fiction, fan fiction, and threw a little BDSM in there without having any foundational knowledge, or maybe more importantly, wasn't writing it from a state of mind where she wanted to protect and educate for the BDSM community. She was writing it, because she wanted to tell this story about these characters, which is fine. But there's so many things in there that are creepy or wrong, or red flags.
Abusive.
Where if this dude, whether the guy's super attractive or he's super
Rich.
wealthy, doesn't matter if the guy is not being respectful of the people that he's playing with. And his own issues were, it's always some tortured soul that's into BDSM. It's never someone who's well adjusted that's into BDSM.
I find it kind of funny that all of the dominatrixes I know, and I know a lot of them, they all do not like that book. They just, so like the street credibility of the book. And
it's terrible.
And
it's just not written.
When I put out, oh God, it's horrible. When I put out The Coolest Way to Kill Yourself, my company put out, the publishing company said it was a romance novel, and it is, but it's a love story. It's not a typical romance novel. It's just a real, true love story. So there's all of these other authors, and they're all just like it's just like abs, no face, no body, just abs. They're oiled up. There's like a castle in the background.
Sure.
Maybe someone's a werewolf. It's like a rich billionaire werewolf dom.
Absolutely.
Probably really religious for some reason. It's like it's so ridiculous. Anyway, but let's talk about the book hustle, right? You write a book. You're an independent author. People like us, we write about subversive subcultures. We write about subversive topics. Like you write behind you, it says read banned books.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So with that, you get the money aspect of it. So in other words, when we do it, we're really doing it for love. Of course, we want money. We need money. The point of it is great. It's, but we do it for the love. And then there are the people who try to take advantage of us. And I think it's very parallel to the catfishers out there with the DOMs pretending to be DOMs, using submissives, very vulnerable submissives, to try to get some money from them.
Sure.
Same thing. It's the same hustle they're doing for books, for PR. Their books. Someone called me for my book, 10 years old. The book is 10 years old. Someone called me for the book saying that for $500, they can get me on the radio on NBC with this. I don't want to say the name, right? I was like, really? I don't even know the person. I don't even know the name. Not many people listen to radio anymore.
Right. True.
I called up the DJ. I was just like, I'm not paying $500. I just called up the DJ myself. And it turns out, there's a whole payola thing with authors, with indie authors, promotion and stuff like that.
Now it's on TikTok.
Yeah. So how, as an indie author, not just a kinky indie author, but as just an indie author, how do we deal with that? How do we get promotion? How do we, without wasting money? That's the thing. Without wasting tons of money, how do we get our books out there, people?
Yeah. I have not written a general audience's book yet, but that's coming. And for that, I'll use my name. But if you're publishing this thing on your own, it's a hell of an uphill climb. And you're probably better off, instead of paying someone to, get your foot in the door with certain people, I think that it'd probably be a lot. One of the things I do through Sexy Networking is helping people with marketing and branding. And you should create a platform. Don't do it like I did it with Asher Lake the first time around. You should create a platform before you ever release the book. And that might require that you start down that path a year before you release your book. It's hard enough to do that as a general audience's author, but when you're an erotica author, or you're doing fetish or BDSM, many of the avenues that are open to you to advertise or to rev the engine are not available because, for example, if I wanted to run right now, if I wanted to run an ad on Facebook, they would not allow me to do that because it's adult content. I can't run an ad on Google for adult content. I can't. I think it's possible, but it's more difficult to get something through BookBub to get a deal if it's erotic. You're not going to be running ads on Amazon. You're not going to be on the Today Show. They're not going to have me. I can't do book signings at Barnes and Noble. I'm writing Femdom fiction. They don't want me there. If I was doing a young adult novel, I could do all of the things I just mentioned. But because I'm doing erotic books, then all of the avenues that most authors have available to them is not open. So you have to be more creative, and you have to be better about establishing your platform better from the beginning. And honestly, one of the best things to establish your platform is to reach out and help other authors. I know that sounds counterproductive, but the fact of the matter is that if you rope in people who are doing things that are similar that you're doing, and you really honestly give them your help, your assistance, your time, and that sort of thing, then when it rolls around, you're likely to have a community of people that will help you out as well. And that is the sort of thing that I think is maybe counter to what most people believe, which is, oh, hey, these guys are writing femdom fiction. They're my competition. Well, they're not your competition. People are ravenous for this stuff. They don't just read one book and then put it aside for 12 years. They read books as fast as they come out, particularly if they're good. So they're not your competition. You could be helping them out and they could be helping you out. So I would say build a community, particularly if you're doing erotic or, BDSM stuff. Find your community and build them up. And then, hopefully when it's your turn, they will help you to be built up as well.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, I was promoting the Coolest Way to Kill Yourself. Then I wrote Chip Black Nail Polish, which is like a memoir about the punk rock scene, me growing up.
Right.
And then there's Your Kinky Friends, which takes place after Lynn died, and it's really a tribute to the kink community. So it's about going to munches and about your friendships that come along. That led me to doing this podcast, to interviewing people, just really to promote the book. And then that led to relationships and friendships, which led to me being, a regular at the Manor, Mischief Manor. So I cannot stress enough to people out there, find your scene. It saves you. It really is. And it makes it all worth it. It really does. Find your people. And there's always someone out there. There's if it's not like the scene that's right there, go to a couple cities over or something like that. There's people out there. We have some questions.
Sure.
Miss Sweet says, why is there such a discrepancy between femdom fiction and prints like Lobo, both being high graphic and sexual in nature?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is she asking why is Logo not graphic and sexual in nature? I'm not sure exactly.
I'm not sure either. Let's go to Stan's question. The only modern kinky comic books I know is from the artist Sleepy Gimp in Suntone Comic. Do you have any opinion on that?
Sunstone is that Stefan Sejic that I was mentioning earlier, and that guy is amazing, and he is doing actual kinky stuff, and he's doing it really for the I don't want to say general audiences, but that guy has done DC Comics before too, so he's crossed over. His stuff is good enough where he's done like Batman and Catwoman illustrations that have shown up in the comics. He self-published the Sunstone stuff. I think he might have a publisher for that, but I have done that. I'm not sure. Oh, Sleepy Gimp. Oh, I do. Is Sleepy Gimp? Does he do like a Patreon account or something. I don't know if he's publishing or not, but look, if you go to Kickstarter right now or to Indiegogo, there is a lot of adult or kinky comic stuff coming out right now, because both of those platforms allow for kinky content, and it also allows you to market to a niche audience, and that works quite well on with crowdfunding.
Miss Sweet adds, Lobo is highly sexual and graphic in nature.
Sure, right, sure.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Why the discrepancy?
The discrepancy between the being accepted.
I'm not sure. But
I'm not trying to be difficult.
We have okay. So we talked about 50
She's right that they get away with a lot of stuff, not just in Lobo, but in a lot of other things. And why is there not more femdom? There has been femdom in the past in comics. I mean, I shared some stuff not too long ago with Superman kneeling before Star Sapphire, and this was a comic that was from like 1973 or something. So it's out there, but they certainly don't advertise it as such. And comics now, mainstream American comics, are going through some big problems of their own right now, which has nothing to do with them offering femdom fiction or not. But I would say that the community at large, there is some other people that I'm trying to think. There's a woman who writes a comic, I think it's called Lust, and her name is Maria Lovett, Llovet, and her stuff is also published by Image Comics, and so it's out there. It's general audiences, right? The acceptance has nothing to do with comics. The acceptance is, in general, society does not accept or allow or whatever female dominance. Male dominance is perfectly cool. That's put into movies. Obviously, 50 Shades of Grey is a movie. They do that. They've put that in movies forever. But female dominance still has not had its 50 Shades moment. Let's just say that, and it is not generally accepted by men or women. I have a femdom fiction book, and I have to tell you that I am writing directly for a very, very niche audience. If and when I write male dom, female submissive, I will be entering an area which is maybe has 10 or 20 times more likelihood of getting picked up by the general audience. Women love buying books with male dominance. Trying to sell women readers a book with a female dominant is an uphill climb. And it's the same. It's the same in television. It's the same in movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with everything. It's still taboo, folks. And like I said, you still don't have that 50 Shades moment. 50 Shades did one good thing. And that is, it introduced BDSM to housewives everywhere. So suddenly, instead of being the butt of jokes or not understanding what was going on, all of these women said, oh, this is sexy. It has changed the national narrative around BDSM. So thanks to 50 Shades of Grey for that. But female domination has still not had that moment. It is still very much taboo to suggest that a woman takes control, or a woman specifically takes control in the bedroom.
I'm thinking about movies like Preaching to the Perverted, Personal Services, Venus and Furs. These are all stories where women are in trouble. Notice they're not huge blockbusters. they're not like to be, but
they had a play on Venus.
So close to my heart. Yes.
Yeah, they had a play for Venus and Furs. Yeah, yeah.
Roman Polanski directed the movie. So, all right,
Still not a big deal. Look, they had a chance with Exit to Eden, which was done by the guy who did Pretty Woman, but they screwed it up.
Oh
They
yeah,
made it a comedy. They injected some characters in there that were completely superfluous.
they throw Dan
And
Aykroyd and Rosie
yes, and
O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell, who were not in the book, and they didn't take it seriously. They should have handed Exit to Eden to a director like Zalman King, or someone who respected the work and wanted to make something fun
Yes.
and serious and sexy. If that had happened, that would have been that moment, and it would have been back in the 90s. We're still waiting on it. We're still waiting on it.
I do think
maybe Netflix would like to contact me to do a movie version of Dominatrix Boss.
Yeah. Or your kinky friends. Oh, speaking of books, yes, I must plug mine. There's Your Kinky Friends, and then there's The Coolest Way to Kill Yourself.
Cool.
So, all right. Moist, crevice, turgid, shaft. These are some horrible, horrible terms that some books have used for sex organs throughout your years of writing and reading and stuff like that. Does anything come to mind? You're just like, what?
Oh, I've seen a lot of cheesy stuff. Matter of fact, I got a book that, or a couple of books that have, like, it's like a guide, or like a thesaurus for erotic words, which are helpful, because there's only so many times you can I cuss here? There's only so many times there's only so many times you can say cock before it gets to be, ridiculous. So it's good if you have, a book that says, here are 40 other ways to say cock, so that you don't have to say the same thing over and over again. I can't specifically remember anything, but I remember I remember long ago, at my parents and my aunts and uncles and that kind of crowd that they hung out with were kind of cut ups. And one of my uncles picked up my grandmother's sewing instructions and began to spontaneously create like an old fashioned steamy romance novel in his head, and like he was reading from my grandmother's sewing instructions, which was everyone thought was hilarious. And he was using all of those sort of words, the kind of the ridiculous stuff that's in those, those old Harlequin romance or whatever the heck they were. And so, hey, Chris, how you doing? That's definitely a situation that springs to mind about all of those crazy words for that stuff. I try to stay away from that as much as possible. I don't, unless I'm specifically trying to make someone laugh. You might use a term like that, but I think anything that removes you from the reading experience is probably a bad idea. I want you to be immersed.
Yes. Now, your intro for your re-released book, Dominatrix Boss, was written by a mutual friend of ours, who decided to, for reasons we're not going to get into, but decided to just leave the kink community. This happens all the time, whether it's voluntarily, or whether it's not voluntarily. My whole Facebook, more than 10 years, I created Nicholas Tanek. Right, we're going to talk about authors and pens in a second, but I created Nicholas Tanek on Facebook. I have memories galore. I have groups that I've started, groups that I've been in, stuff that I've got stuff done. I've met people through it. Now it's all gone, Facebook, because I wrote a book called The Coolest Way to Kill Yourself, and I have Your Kinky Friends. They just delete it. They just delete it like it never happened.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend is not who I'm so glad that you published his intro. It was so good to see that. It's so good to read that, because he's a friend, and it's like he's gone, so that happens. Like you said, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it? Because it's like it's almost like losing a friend.
Sure, it is.
It's almost like someone dying, because like you speak to them all the time, and then they don't speak to you anymore because they're not kinky. So how do you deal with it?
Yeah. I've been in the scene for about 25 years now, maybe longer. Um, and I have dealt with this over and over again. And it's, you know, everyone has a, whatever um, their kinky journey is. Some people have it for life, and other people, have a certain period of time, and then they have to go. Um, it's this is not necessarily. It's still not generally accepted that you do these kinky things, and if you have a family in particular with kids and that sort of thing, um, your kinky lifestyle could easily butt up against reality in a way that prevents you from exploring the kinky lifestyle anymore. And also, with dominatrices, they might get burned out. They do it for a little while and they're like, I love this, but it's not for me. Or they just decide to go do something else. For some people, there's a hell of a lot of money in it. For some people, it's not worth it. They could go get a regular job and have a steady paycheck and not have to worry about whatever feelings and about the safety or the legality of what they're doing. And so they get out of it. You really have to, if you're going to do this as a living, you have to work hard at it. It has to be more important than all of the roadblocks that you're going to run into. And for some people, it's just easier to do something else. I certainly don't fault anyone for that. You have to take care of yourself first.
Of course.
And you also have to take care of the people around you. And if you make that decision, like I have to not do this anymore, then I 100% respect that and understand it. And
without a doubt, yeah.
you have to let people do their thing.
One of the things I think I see is people not wanting to be silenced. For example, my Facebook was gone. I didn't want to be like I felt like a chunk was torn out of my heart. You know what I mean? And then there's multiple friends all the time. They're like, "Oh, this is the first time you got kicked off Facebook?"
Yeah. I mean, some people are perpetually in a state of.
So my question is, how can kinky people keep the flame of social media burning? Because it seems like platforms are dying. Like Twitter is now X. OnlyFans has all this controversy and everything like that. So it always seems like there's always a platform that we have to jump onto again, like somewhere else. So
I deal with this. I deal with this constantly. Look, I deal with this from every angle. I'm a professional fetish photographer. I'm a professional fetish writer. I'm a professional fetish artist. So I deal with it from that angle. But I also am a consultant for Sexy Networking, which is my company that I created for the purposes of helping other people who are in the adult industry who want to do marketing and branding and that sort of thing. And so I see this from every angle. I've experienced many times having my platform removed or individual pieces of artwork. Instagram used to be fairly permissive as far as just having a little nudity in your deal. And then about 2 years ago, they started cracking down on that. And I fought with them off and on ever since, which means that for the most part, I don't post the stuff there anymore. I post it on a Patreon account where I'm not censored. I think that what you have to do to answer your question, how do you deal with it, is to be aware of where it is that you can still post adult content and it'd be perfectly fine. And despite the fact that Twitter has become X, it is still very much allowed for you to post adult content on there. And it is one of the last places, large platforms, where you can do adult content and not be in trouble. Although, people get kicked off of Twitter for one reason, or X for one reason or another still. There's also Reddit, which you can get away with certain things. And Tumblr stopped allowing you to do adult content and then started up again when it got sold off to someone else. So those are your three major markets there. And look, what I say is don't be in one place. Do not be in one place. Do not put all, I mean, if you are doing, if you're doing adult content, then the thing that you must do is establish your own headquarters, which is what I call a headquarters, which is your own website. Have your own damn website that you own the URL, that you are paying for the server and take care of all of that sort of stuff. That's your headquarters. That will be, I've had one website, which is dirkhooper.com. I have had that since the early 2000s. I just celebrated 20 years with that platform. That platform has been owned by me and has been available for 20 years. If I get kicked off of any social media or anything, or MySpace dies, or Friendster dies, or Google Circles dies, or any of the other things, still had my own website. And as far as social media goes, don't be on one platform. Do not put your whole life on one platform. Pick 2 platforms. Pick 10 platforms. I'm on everything. Someone just asked, what's my favorite? I mean, my favorite is still X. I've got, 80,000 people on there. It's still a place where they're throttling me, unfortunately, for some reason. They're throttling my content. They're throttling my content, and they throttle my estimation is that they throttle anyone who's doing what they call sensitive content. So if you have your account marked as, hey, children are not welcome here, this is sensitive content, then they throttle everything that you're doing. Look, I used to put out stupid memes and stuff, and it would get 100 retweets. Now, what I would consider to be my quality content, if it gets 20 retweets, I'm ecstatic. So, it's not ideal, but it's the only place where I can reach, tens of thousands of people easily.
Yeah.
Be on other platforms. There's a platform called Pinksters, which is brand new, very few people on there, and they'll let you do whatever you want to.
Nice. Thank you for that.
There's another platform called ShareSome, which is a great place where you can post adult content. Minds, minds.com is a platform that is not centrally located. So it's more like Bitcoin, where there are there are servers are all over the place, and you can mark your stuff as adult content and you can share it on there. There are other places. I won't be able to come with all of them. I gave you a few of those. I really, look, I don't use Reddit, but I use X and Tumblr and ShareSome, Pinksters, and a few other places. Like I can, and like I said, I started my own Patreon so that when I do kinky artwork, I can put it on a Patreon, and people who want to see that can see it. It's uncensored, and they can also see, in addition to that, they can also see, my behind the scenes stuff. And I'm posting the chapters of the sequel to Dominatrix Boss. I'm posting it on there right now. So if you want to see my process and what I'm doing, go to my Patreon account. For $3 a month, you can see everything that I'm doing without censorship.
If you, all right, let me put it this way. So writing under a pen name, right? Writing under a pen name, in a way, in many ways, it's kind of like role play. You're stepping into a character, right? Would you agree with that? And how is Asher Lake different than Dirk Hooper?
Yeah, I would say that it certainly can be a different persona, and I think that probably a lot of people approach pen names like that. But for me, writing it under a pen name did a lot of things at the same time for me. Asher Lake is still me, but what it did is, by separating it out as Asher Lake, it freed me to write more honestly. So I didn't have to worry about friends and family. And by the way, friends and family know that I'm kinky. That's not a surprise to them. They've seen my artwork. I mean, my parents, both of them knew that I was into this, so I'm not really, under the radar there. But I wanted to be able to write a book where I didn't have to worry about my friends and family reading it. So by using a pen name, it allowed me to write as honest as I possibly could. And so, I shared a lot of myself in Dominatrix Boss, and a lot of my, fantasies, and a lot of my inner thoughts. The character of Tim is not me, but it allowed me to speak in a way that where I didn't have to worry about being judged by, people who, know and hang out with me or whatever. It was also a like almost a straight marketing decision, because if you are picking up the books of Asher Lake, they're going to be very, very different from the books of Dirk Hooper. The stuff that I plan on publishing under my name is going to be science fiction and fantasy and, like I said, a paranormal spy novel. I have a steampunk Western character that I want to write stories about, but those are going to be more general audience. So I wanted to separate Dirk Hooper work from Asher Lake work as well, because those are two different audiences. Those are the main reasons why I use a pen name. It wasn't necessarily to have a different persona. I would say that it's very much my kink persona that's writing Dominatrix Boss as Asher Lake.
Miss Sweet asks, where can we find copies of Dominatrix Boss?
Yeah, right now Dominatrix Boss is available as an ebook for $2.99 on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. It's in that program. And you can pick up a paperback version, which is, I just find on Friday, I got this. You can get the paperback version of Dominatrix Boss for $11.99, again through Amazon. And I'm just really happy with the way this thing turned out. The first time I released the book, it was what I would call utilitarian. I did it in Word, and it was it served the purpose. But this time I learned a whole new program. I learned Adobe InDesign. I designed this thing. I put extra photos. I redid all of the photos. It's laid out professionally. This is, in my opinion, this is pretty. It's a beautiful book. And so anyway, it's available for $11.99 on Amazon right now. And soon I'm going to be creating through Ingram Spark a hardback book. And so it'll be available for the first time in hardback, and that'll be available overseas in markets where Amazon is not presenting the book. So it will open up some new markets for me, and it'll give me a hardback book, which would be pretty cool.
Okay. So, all right. I have this podcast, and it didn't start out a podcast. It was just interviewing people, right? You're a podcast producer. I say that this is like my style is lo-fi punk rock. It's guerrilla style. I can do it anywhere, pop up anytime. There's no theme song. There's no editing. I very, very rarely edit anything.
Right.
Because I want it to be a document, a real document. I don't want to mix anyone's words. I don't want to say he edited the edit is took it out of context.
Yeah, it's all in context. Yeah.
It's all there. Right.
Yeah.
So as a podcast producer, how can I make this better? Help me. I need all the help that I can get.
I mean, my sort of thing would be to suggest some of the things that you said you don't do, which is kind of have an intro, a little music, and, maybe have little segments that pop up and they say, hey, now it's the time that we're going to do, this game or something that we're going to play. And you have a little, 5-second segment. But that would be my inclination to suggest. But you just gave the reason why that's not a good idea, which is that you're trying to present something that's like, what do they call it? Cinema verite or something, gonzo, gonzo style, work. So look, the thing that I tell everyone, whether it's when you're talking about marketing and branding, is just figure out who you are and what you want to put out there, and then do everything in service of that. Don't try to be something that you're not, or that you're not comfortable with. Just find out what you are, define that. And sometimes it's difficult that's why I help out. People, is that I'm a third party. I'm not involved in this thing. And I've been doing this for a long time, so I can assess who you are, maybe better than you can, because I'm looking from the outside in. But the idea is to define who you are, and then define who your audience is, and then just do everything to broadcast who you are to that audience. That's it. That's marketing. So you're saying, that you want this to be all in context. You want to do it all in one take. You don't want all the bells and whistles and all the music and the silliness. Don't do that. Don't do that. Find out ways to tell people, this is what I do and this is why I'm doing it, and find places where people who are interested in that are functioning and operating, and then put that message out to them. That's the way to make it better. But you've been doing this. How long have you been doing this?
6 years, something like that. 5, 6 years. But
you're doing it.
Been something. I had a liver transplant through the whole thing. I had someone died. My dom died. Like a liver transplant. Like going through hell. I'm barely scraping on. There were episodes where my face is sunken in. I look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and I'm asking like, "What's the last time what's the most sadistically brutal thing that you've done?" I'm like shaking and stuff like that. And I think that people were just interviewing just like as pity, right? As like, oh, he's gonna die soon. Let's cheer up. But you know what? I made it. Look,
you've got a great back catalog of some of the coolest people in the industry, or even people who are not in the industry. They're just, they're just kinky people.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So
just tell people that's what you've got. Just find out ways to tell people about who you are and what you do. That's it.
Now, one of the things, the main question that happens, I went to a dungeon party yesterday. It was a pup play. I'm not even into animal play, but I'm part of the scene, and it's my crew. I had a wonderful time. It's great. Everyone's talking about money. How can people make money? The dominatrixes, we know how the dominatrixes can make money, right? There's content creators, stuff like that. So, but in general, if you're kinky, what are some ways kinky people can make money?
So, some of the things that occur to me is people who create items and stuff, like handcrafted items and show up at conventions, that's
dildos.
Whips. I mean, if you're crafty one way or the other, whether you maybe you can make leather goods, maybe you can make whips or whatever, or maybe you have something that's even wilder that you would like to make. Whatever it is that like, for example, I do marketing and branding. I used to do marketing and branding for a local pharmacy. And I tripled the amount of people that were coming to their pharmacy. That was very successful. I just took those skills and offered them to the BDSM community. Mostly that is professional dominatrices, but it's other people too. It's been artists, it's been writers, it's been content, lots of content creators, and it's been companies like people who were designing social networks and stuff, and people who were doing apps, or people who were wanted to create a porn film company have contacted me. It's all the same process. There is not a hair's difference between helping someone with marketing and branding if they're doing a local pharmacy or if they are spanking people for a living. It's the same process, which is asking people, figuring out, digging down deep, finding out who they are, find out who their audience is, and then helping them buff out all of the rough edges of, how they are marketing to people.
Marketing. Right. Chris Bako says, I have been a writer for online magazines in the past and plan to do more to
Yeah.
make money. Kinky and vanilla adult publications.
Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
writing is the sort of thing. Look, writing is a dying art. There are a lot of people. I mean,
Yes.
some people can't even write a text message that makes any damn sense. So if you can string together some sentences, put them into paragraphs, make them clear, your grammar, you have a valuable skill. And whether that's a valuable skill for the general public or whether it's a valuable skill for the BDSM community, it's all the same thing.
Definitely. Okay. So let me ask you this. Before we get into the fetish narrative and how the narratives changed, let me ask you, what was the fetish that really got you into this? I mean, for me, right, I remember seeing catalogs. My parents would be like, the holidays are coming or your birthday, here's a catalog.
Yeah.
Toys.
Yeah.
Boom. I saw
the Sears catalog.
Woman in garter belts, right? Boom, I was done. And then
yes.
I saw movies. I'm a huge lover of movies. I remember seeing Sid and Nancy in middle school. And there's a man hanging from the ceiling.
Is that Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman's in the Sid and Nancy, yeah.
I love Gary Oldman.
It's a great movie. That's his first movie I ever saw him in. And,
okay.
Yeah, and she's whipping the guy who's hanging from the ceiling, and I felt like I want to be that guy. I'm in middle school. I want to be that guy. So what was the thing that like really pulled you in to this community, into the fetishes and everything?
Yeah, I don't think that I was necessarily I think I've always been kinky. I think it was in me.
And I think so have I. But there's something that kind of just pulls you in.
Sure.
That hooks you. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I
think that some of these things, and I'm gonna give you some early stuff because I've thought about this quite a bit. I mentioned earlier that I was into role play. I think the first time I recognized that when I was very young, I had a babysitter who was quite attractive, and she didn't do anything sexual. Don't get me wrong. Let's not be scandalous, but she liked playing pirates or creating little haunted house scenarios while we were, while she was babysitting me or stuff. And that opened up my mind to, role playing, to being in these roles. And like I said, it didn't hurt that the girl was, very attractive. So I associated role playing with something that I enjoyed. And later on, figured out that there was something sexual about that, like when I was 13 or so. I can remember there was a movie that I saw back when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old called, this is a deep cut, folks. It was called Inframan. And Inframan was a Chinese, like Godzilla type superhero movie. It was kind of their version of Ultraman. Like there's Ultraman from way back in the 60s and the 70s. China decided to do their own version, which is called Inframan. So what is it about this thing that was kinky? The main bad guy, which her name was Princess something or other, I don't remember what it was. She was in kind of a latex outfit. She had claws, she had a whip, and she was in charge of all of these monsters. And she would, whip these monsters if they were not acting right and sort of stuff. She was a female dominant in this, crazy Ultraman inspired Chinese movie. So 6 or 7, I remember that. And then also kind of around that time, like a Wonder Woman television show. That's a strong, dominant woman and kind of a, the high-heeled boots and the tight outfit and all that sort of stuff. She's using her lasso on people. All right. Are you getting it where this is coming? There's bondage in it. There's control. She's a strong woman, that sort of thing. Very attractive.
I'm gonna switch myself, and it seems like just like me, very similar to me, Femdom really dominated
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fetish, right? Dominated the
Yeah.
fetish.
Yeah.
But
Unquestionably.
you also dom, though, right?
Yeah.
You've topped and all that stuff like that. So how do you find I mean, I have my answer for me, but what's your answer? How do you find balance in switching, in being submissive and being dominant one day and submissive the next, or even in the same day, same hour?
Yeah, I have an unusual thing where I have been both dominant and submissive, but I do not call myself a switch. And the reason is that um, I'm either one or the other with a partner. So if I have a partner that is submissive, then I'm dominant with them. And if I have a partner that is dominant, then I'm submissive to them. And that is my role with them from then on. And ideally, I would be with that person from that point forward. Like I would, a long-term relationship. So I could literally walk away from either role at any time and just be one thing or the other. One of the reasons why I'm more dominant now is because I've been doing this for a while. I am more experienced than almost anyone that I would play with. And so when the question becomes, who's going to be in charge? Well, probably me.
Do you think that because of age, like I don't
I'm the
have time to be
person,
submissive?
right? Well, I would be submissive in a second with someone who was very serious and very good and who knew what they were doing. I would have no problem with that. And I don't like switching with the same person
Okay.
and here's the reason why. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I don't like play as much as I like a relationship. And I like
Yes.
being in a certain state of mind over a long period of time. If
Yes.
you are submissive over a long period of time, you get deeper and deeper, and it means more, and the connection grows, and the way that you play with someone blossoms over time. If you're switching back and forth, it's almost impossible to get into the deep state of mind that I seek and that I want and I desire. So
I totally know what you mean.
I pick one role. I pick one role
in my
and
situation,
I stick to it. And ideally, I'm with that person
situation.
until the end of time. So I could walk away from either role at any time with the right person.
In my situation, it's I guess we switch, so to speak. I mean, it's a
And by the way,
female-led relationship, but we just
Right.
have this hunger for each other, right? We just want to turn each other on. So that means if I could literally be in chastity, right, in garter belts and stockings, and still pin her up against the wall and make her come. You know what I mean? So it's the connection that you find with the person that I think takes on another level. It puts the bond in bondage, so to speak. It's tougher than any kind of handcuff or strap or anything. You know what I mean?
And I want to say something that when I'm talking about what I want to do, I'm certainly not speaking for anyone else. I'm not saying if you're doing what you're talking about, which is switching during scene, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone should do what they want to do. It's all okay. I'm certainly not passing any judgment on anyone. I'm just saying for myself that when I am with a partner, I just want to be with them under one role so that we can grow
Of course, yeah.
that dynamic over time. That's my deepest desire.
Now,
And I will say that I have
through time, has your opinion of this changed? Of your opinion of certain fetishes changed and evolved? For example,
absolutely
specification fetishes, the cross-dressing fetishes, the feminization. It's different. I have a completely different view of it. I'm not just gooning out, so to speak. You know what I mean? There's people involved. There's gender issues involved. There's a celebration of that gender. You know what I mean? As opposed to just gooning and just getting turned on, by it. So have you evolved in a certain fetish that you have? Could it be femdom? It could be a very specific type of femdom. But has your opinion of it changed throughout the years, or how has it changed?
Yeah, I mean, look, the BDSM play partner playlist that I filled out 25 years ago would be radically different from the list that I filled out today. I wouldn't say that my stuff has necessarily, well, it has changed. And it's changed in that things that I thought that I was very much into, when I got to experience them, some of these things were not that big a deal. It's like, I'm not really so into this. And things that I thought, I'll never do that. That's ridiculous. Those things are absurd, are some of the things that turn me on the most.
Like what?
And I mean, just, like, particularly with the submissive stuff, I really like humiliation and degradation and like just kind of anything that goes along with that and plays into that. At the beginning, I would not have explored half of the things that I'm interested in. And there's a lot of things that I'm interested in now that I still haven't done. Because look, it's much, much easier, both because I'm older and more experienced, and because it's not easy to find a dominant woman to play with, or particularly to be in a relationship with.
You like humiliation. You said humiliation, correct?
Yeah.
So what is it? Let me ask you this. There are a lot of people who, they're in the process, men specifically, they're in the process of either, trying to ejaculate or they're having sex or something like that. And it isn't until the partner says, you're a piece of shit, you're horrible, you're like, just say something like you sissy slut, you dirty whore, something like that. What is it about that moment, that knife that stabs real into, that makes that brings the climax? What is it? What do you think that is?
Look, I've been doing this for a long time. I've had a lot of experiences, and I still cannot quantify what it is about. Look, let me say this. I am someone who had what I would call an idyllic childhood.
Okay.
I had no trauma whatsoever. I am a happy, well-adjusted person. I enjoy life. I have a very healthy self-esteem. So all of the things that people would attribute to wanting to engage in humiliation and degradation or pain play or anything of that sort, that's not from my experience. It has nothing to do with that. So there's something else that's going on there.
What's the most humiliating thing that was done or said to you recently?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the last 10 years, mostly, I've been the person that's been saying the thing.
Oh, so what do you say? Give me an example of something you would say. Or something creative, not just slut, whore, something like that, but like, what's like a good thing that we should add to the lexicon?
Oh, I don't know if I can come up with something specifically off the top of my head. I will say this. When I start playing with someone new, I find out what their triggers are, and then I lean into that. And usually the triggers are stuff like slut and, you're a whore and all that sort of stuff. But for other people, it may be something else differently. Maybe they want to be a dog, or they want to be whatever.
I think it's communication and setting boundaries is very important.
You got to find out what specific people's triggers are.
It's that one thing. You could say that one wrong name. You could call one wrong name call, right? Just they may have a thing that could be innocent, it could be like someone. My name is Nicholas. Someone calls me Nick. I can get offended. You never know,
right?
I don't. You can call me Nick. Right. I don't care, but you never know, right? Okay, so we have a session. I mean, a question. Miss Sweet says, Dirk, what is your favorite form of role play?
Yeah, I've talked a lot about role play and assuming roles. For me, role play is, just being dominant or submissive. I'm not the type of person that really enjoys like, you're going to be the captain of the plane, and I'm going to be the flight attendant, or, I'm going to be a cop and you're going to be a criminal. I never do that sort of thing. That doesn't interest me. What interests me mostly is kind of playing as authentically as possible, playing within your role of being dominant or submissive. That's the sort of scenarios that I like.
Yeah.
As a dominant, I try very hard to give the experience, whatever it is that the submissive that I'm playing with wants or needs. In some
Mhm.
cases, those are two different things.
Yeah.
The wants and the needs are sometimes, you may be working from two different angles there. And I do
Sunshine
enjoy that
says
very much.
Sunshine
But
says, "It is very beautiful to enjoy kinks you had no idea existed, or ones you didn't know you'd enjoy."
certainly,
Very true.
yeah, certainly. Which is the fun thing of playing with someone over a period of time, because you kind of take on some of their stuff.
Mhm.
They're going to introduce things to you that you weren't interested in, or maybe you've never had the opportunity to do. And, in the process of doing that, you're like, oh, I kind of like this. This is pretty cool.
So let's talk about these long-term scenarios. The one that comes to mind for me, right, is like the typical sissification narrative, the chat, like um, the sub lives in chastity. Usually 24/7, most of the time, right?
Yeah.
Is basically serving their pleasure means nothing, obviously, but it's definitely controlled, stuff like that. And that long-term effects has a lasting effect on everything you do. So it's like day one, it's like the stages of death, the 5 stages of grief. There's a fear, there's acceptance, there's
Anger,
negotiating, there's
right?
anger, there's negotiating.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just
Sure. Sure. And then
so
resignation.
resignation. So as someone who's done both doming and subbing in the long format, what are some role play scenarios to inspire us, the listener or the viewer, to play? For example, I just said, like you said, the secretary boss or something like that, or the sissification narrative. I'm going to keep you locked and dressed, and this is your life now. It's like stuff like that. So, what are some scenarios, some role plays that we should try?
The last long-term relationship I was in, I was dominant, and she played. We were doing pet play. Now she wasn't really. She was. We weren't really doing things where she was like a cat role, but I was not having her, wear tails and crawl on the floor and do that sort of stuff. That was not the deal. It was more like kind of a state of mind where it allowed scenarios where she would cuddle with me like a pet would, or that I would stroke her or pet her like you would a pet. And also kind of a more nurturing dynamic between the two of us. Um, but with that said, there was all kinds of things, and this has always been the case with everyone that I've played with where I was in the dominant role, where we were kind of working through a number of, personality, psychological issues, and, trying to create scenarios that kind of, freed them from some of the stuff in their past or work through certain things. She had a very complicated relationship with her mother, and the way that she was raised. And, that was definitely part of our play as well, by, presenting some of the scenarios that she had with her mother and making it, fun and healing, that sort of thing. Like I said, most of the relationships that I've been in hasn't been, kind of the role play type stuff. It's been,
Hmm.
Like actual servitude, and, being a slave, being a slave or being the dominant and stuff. It's not so much, us playing, whatever,
Yeah, but when it comes
criminal and
to
housewife.
I have a friend named Luna Dark. Shout out to Luna Dark, who's a submissive, like through and through. She's only dommed me. The only person she's ever dommed is me. But she says submission is a gift. Do you
Sure.
agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're giving a part of yourself to that person. You're being vulnerable to them. You're, opening yourself up. It's unquestionably a gift, and it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give.
Stan Vladimir asks, which superhero or villain would you like to have as a sub and as a dom partner?
I can think of someone. She's in the X-Men. What is her name? I can't remember her. She always wears a white outfit. I don't know. She's not coming to me right now. Is she the White Queen? Is that the correct thing? I don't know.
Stan would know. Stan knows this though.
I don't know. Okay. She used to be a bad guy, and now she's like part of the team or whatever. She just married Tony Stark in the comics. Tony
Stark. Oh,
she's been in the movies too. I cannot remember her name.
Iron Man, Tony Starks would be a great wingman. You take Iron Man to a party. Holy shit!
Sure. I mean, he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. He'd be great. Yeah, he could get you into all the great places.
Speaking of complete fantasies, let's fantasize for a second, okay? A lot of people in the kink community, it's all about creativity, imagination, and fantasy, and pipe dreams. We're all dreaming and fantasizing about a different life, new stuff like that. So fantasize with me for a second. You have endless resources. You can go anywhere in the world. You could do anything you want. You could create your ultimate kinky fantasy. What do?
You're going to hate this answer given the thing that you set up. You're going to hate this answer.
There's no wrong answer. No wrong answer.
The ultimate kinky fantasy for me is to find a dominant woman that I'm attracted to and who has similar interests as me, and that I get to be with her for the rest of time. That is the fantasy scenario. And let's be honest, that fantasy scenario is, in my opinion, I've been in this community for a long time. That fantasy is a bigger fantasy than Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Because look, I did research on this a long time ago, and it's a little better now. I will say that it's a little better now.
Oh yeah.
But the ratio of dominant women to submissive men is 20-1. Mm-hmm. That's what I call the dom deficit.
The dom deficit, yes.
And if you look at that ratio, then you try to narrow it down to, this is a woman who lives near me. This is someone that is interesting to me and that I am interesting to her. And here's the big one, that she just wants to be in a relationship with me. She doesn't want to be in a relationship with 20 other guys.
Mm-hmm. So you're not a big lover of polyamory.
No, and again, nothing against
it. It's just not your thing.
I'm passing no judgment on anyone. Please, by all means, do that.
Of course,
enjoy it. No judgment whatsoever. But what I want is a monogamous relationship. I want her and me to be partners in a team from now until the end of time. That scenario is a huge fantasy. I would say that
it's obtainable.
I would say that the likelihood of that happening is exceptionally low, to the point of almost being impossible.
What's wild is I feel you. I know exactly how you feel. And my book, Your Kinky Friends, is really all about that. Is about, well, the main character, me, just lost my dom to cancer. Right? I'm devastated, and trying to think that I'll ever have a relationship that's anything near that way, let alone just a relationship at all.
Yeah.
A kinky relationship, a submissive femdom who is open-minded to cross-dressing and femdom and just having the fetish.
Well, that's another element.
Yeah.
That your interest match up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that my whole book is basically about that, about not just me, but the other people trying to find somebody to connect with. And I think that's what most people in the kink community are doing. I think that's the heart,
Sure,
just connecting people.
sure.
So that's a great fantasy. That's a wonderful
It's a
fantasy.
fantasy.
Thank you very
If
much for sharing.
if I wanted to be dominant and find a submissive woman, that's a lot easier ask. It's
Mm-hmm.
so because of society, because of what we
Yeah.
were talking about earlier. It's almost traditional to have a dominant man and a submissive woman. It's
Yeah.
almost written into your genes, everyone's genes.
Yeah.
You're
I
not
know, and I
going
feel
you're not going against the grain there, but asking for a dominant woman and to be a submissive man to her, that's a it's hard. It's hard.
and as submissive, I feel it makes me like step up my game because I want to serve right. I want to serve well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that means
If
being on time, being proper, being respectful,
sure.
being loving and caring as much as possible. Submission
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing. And I think that people
Yeah.
don't appreciate it as much.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
So we got Stan says Storm, and then
That's
Emma Frost.
Emma Frost is that's the ding ding ding. It's Emma Frost.
That could happen.
That's who
only
I was thinking. Emma Frost does mind control. That's her big power. She also turns into a diamond or something, like she has diamond skin or something. But anyway, she's been in some of the movies and stuff. She's always kind of this she's a bad girl. She's a bad girl. She's not nice. And yeah, she would be great as a dom.
So you mentioned puppy play before.
Did I?
Yeah, I did. It's funny that you said that because I came from a party, a puppy play party,
Oh, right.
and it's something that I wasn't not really involved in, but I get it. I really get it, especially the submission aspect. You know what I mean? And
Right.
So what have your experience with puppy play? Like just in dungeons with
I haven't
who's into it, or
I haven't done puppy play, and I'm not necessarily into it. In the case I did talk about pet play. In that case, she was like her role was like being like a cat. So she would literally wear like cat ears and stuff, which I thought was kind of cute. And we played with the kind of like I said, the nurturing dynamic where she would sit close to me and I would pet her, and we would do that in public and that sort of thing. I have seen lots of people do puppy play in dungeons, and both men and women and that sort of thing. I allude to some of that in the sequel to Dominatrix Boss. So, I'm certainly familiar with it. And I know, I know a lot of people who are into it and practice it. And so that's my experience with it, is kind of, looking at it from the outside.
Now, when you okay, you know what? Let's just go through overrated, underrated. This is a game. It's a segment we have. It's a new segment.
Okay.
We do that as a word association game. But basically, it's overrated, underrated. I'm going to say a fetish or kink. You say, in your opinion, it's not the be all end all. It's your opinion.
Okay.
Overrated or underrated.
Okay, that's cool.
All right. So
Yep.
Overrated, underrated, but you got to tell me why. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's go. Let's start.
All right.
All right. Face slapping.
Underrated.
Why?
Yeah, I love that. As a submissive, I love it. Well, I love it as a dominant too.
Oh yeah.
Look, that's very much tied in my mind, tied into the humiliation and degradation thing. Yeah, I like it.
Wax play.
As a dominant, I think, underrated. I like it.
Garter belts.
Oh, very highly underrated. I'm really into. I love lingerie, in particular garter belts. Where are the garter belts, ladies? Where are the garter belts?
Yes.
Let's have some of that. Let's have some of the stockings.
The ones that snap too, not the one things.
No, that's bullshit. It has to have the snap. What
Yes.
what do you even do it? Yeah, it's a one-piece thing. That's lazy. Get the damn garter belts. Get the snaps. Get the vintage stockings. Is that too much to ask?
Splashing.
Overrated. Not my thing.
Okay. All right. The 50s housewife dynamic.
Yeah, underrated. That's good. I could be I could be dominant in that scenario. Yeah, that's cool.
the daddy baby girl dynamic.
I like that. Underrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What
I'm kind of,
about?
again, I'm a little older, so that works
Oh
really
yeah.
well with most of the people that I play with. And again, that goes right straight to the nurturing aspect, which I really like. Because
Hmm.
look, I'm not, I can be mean if someone needs that, but at heart,
Believe me,
I'm an exceptionally kind person,
I'm
and
the
so
same
I
way.
really have to
Yeah.
have that. Even if it's an aftercare or whatever, I still have to have that aspect where I can be nurturing and care for someone and look out for them. So the daddy dom little girl thing works really well for me.
French maid outfits.
Oh, highly underrated.
Okay. Corsets.
Underrated.
Strap on dildos.
Underrated.
Remote control vibrators.
Underrated. I like it all.
Well,
Bring it all. I used one of those not too terribly long ago, and yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, you've got,
yeah.
it's like having force powers. You can, you can turn it off, you can turn it on, you can make it go faster and stuff, and you could sit in a chair from 10 feet away, or you could do it. You could be in a totally different location, and you
Hmm.
could be messing with someone because it's attached to their phone. That's awesome. That has all
Yeah.
kinds of great scenarios. You could do it in a restaurant. You go to a restaurant with someone and have that hooked up on them, and then play with them during the day. That's good stuff.
I would take my girlfriend lingerie shopping. So little remote control egg, little black remote control egg. Put it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Okay. See something she likes. Oh, you like it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fun.
I like it all. Bring it all. All right, we're still in the overrated, underrated.
All right.
Okay. Water sports.
Underrated.
The
Haven't done it. Haven't done
haven't
enough
done it.
of it. Haven't done
Haven't
enough
done
of it.
enough.
I've done it. I've done.
Who do you want to pee on? Out of
Oh,
anybody in the world, who do you want to pee on?
yeah.
Who deserves a good piss in their face?
I, the other direction, I'm not as interested. Although, look, if someone asked for it, I would do it. The other direction, I'm not as interested. But
Okay. You want to do it in love and fun and in the spirit of kink. You don't want to do it in anger. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, not my style.
Yeah. If you're gonna piss on someone, do it with the spirit of kink inside you.
Yeah, do it with your heart.
Yes. If you're gonna piss with your heart, please. All right. Finally, we've reached the end, and there's no pun intended. Overrated, underrated. Scat.
I overrated on that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But
Not
not,
my favorite.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
I think in the right scenario where it was alluded to might be interesting. You like threatened or something, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the actual physical act of doing, I don't even know if that's safe to do. Yeah, I'm not into it.
During the time of COVID, I just had a liver transplant. I'm immune to
Seriously.
I have immune issues. I'm not getting anywhere near.
Yeah, there's enough crazy shit going on without
I'm
pressing
not
that button.
shaming, not kink shaming at all.
No,
I
no.
totally understand the submissive aspect of it.
No, I'm not either. That everything comes with the caveat of I'm not judging whatever everyone else.
Poop with pride. Poop with kink in your heart, please.
Right.
Everybody. All right. So we're gonna wind it up, but there are a couple of other questions, and they're kind of serious questions. Throughout the liver transplant that I had, I was dying. And talking with people like you, seeing your artwork, seeing what reading what you wrote, helped me. Kink saved my life in many ways. And people like Mr. Shari at Mischief Manor, all the people at Mischief Manor, Sunshine, who's my key holder, who's downstairs right now, who's about to do something as soon as we're done. But in other words, that saved my life. It really was. I wouldn't be here without the support and love. So also on top of that, it's the finding myself and understanding, accepting my fetishes. I'm not a freak, right? I could use my fetishes for good. So how has kink saved your life?
Yeah. I'm not an outgoing person for the most part. I like I love people, but I like them in small groups. And also, I'm not the type of person that's going to go up to someone at a bar and go, "Hey, how are you doing?" That's not my routine.
How you doing? What's up?
What?
What's going on? What's
What?
going on, dude? Dirk, how
Right.
you doing? What's going on?
Hey. um, what Kink did for me, how it saved my life, is it opened up an entire community of loving, open people that were non-judgmental and allowed me to express myself in the ways that, felt right to me. And it also allowed me to express myself in ways that would not have been possible without kink. 10, 15 years ago, I stopped dating vanilla. So I wasn't doing a little bit of kink and a little bit of vanilla. I was just dating kink because I found out that I really need that dynamic. I love that dynamic. I love when you get into the beginning of a relationship and you share that playlist and you talk about what you're into and that sort of thing, which is not something that most people do in the vanilla relationship. They don't have that. I mean, how many times are you going to be at the beginning of a vanilla relationship and talk about what you want and need in the bedroom? That would be presumptuous. You would never do that. But when you get into a kink relationship, that's one of the first things that you talk about. What are you
Yeah.
into? What do you
Right
want
off
to
the
do?
bat.
What have you not done? What
What
would
are
you
you not
never do?
into? What are we not going to do together?
What have you always wanted to do? Those
Yes.
are all the questions that you're going to have at the beginning to find out if there's some compatibility between the things that you want to do and the things that I want to do. So it's built into the kink relationship. So it's a foundational element for my relationships, which wouldn't be there otherwise. And so it's allowed me to be better in the dating process, and it has also been a loving, welcoming community that allowed me to express myself, whether that was through my art or my photography or my writing. And it's very, very important to me. I've had relationships that I never would have had if I was just dating vanilla people. I've had these wonderful, amazing, life-changing experiences because of kink and BDSM. And if it wasn't there, then I would have not had these experiences.
Definitely. Stan Vladimir says, "This was an awesome episode. Have a wonderful evening, Dirk. Good luck with your comic book and upcoming projects. And where can we follow
Thank you,
you?"
Stan. Yeah. If you're interested in Dominatrix Boss, go to Amazon and look that up under the name Asher Lake. This is the book again. This is a re-release of the book that's been out for a while. It's written by Asher Lake. Let me hold this different. It's written by Asher Lake, which is me. So you can go to Amazon for that. I also have right there on the tag, right by my name, asherlake.net, which I talk about the writing process, about the marketing process. And I've had stuff that I've put up there for about 5 years where I've talked about that. If you're interested in my artwork, which we didn't even talk about artwork, go to my legacy site, which is dirkhooper.com, dirkhooper.com. And also, I'm available at Dirk Hooper, just about any place that you can imagine. I'm pretty much on every network, whether it's vanilla or whether it's adult centric. So I'm at Dirk Hooper on X. I'm at Dirk.Hooper on Facebook. I'm at Dirk Hooper on Instagram, and the other sites that I mentioned earlier. I'm at Dirk Hooper, and if it's a social network, I'm probably on there at Dirk Hooper there as well.
Now, when it comes to art, we did discuss art a little bit, but of course, art is endless. I could talk about art for hours. If you can only choose one medium for the rest of your life, one medium, what would it be?
Yeah, I don't know if this counts, but it would be digital. many years ago when I was growing up and learning to do art, I did predominantly pen and ink artwork on, which is the typical like comic book style art. Did it on Bristol board, 11 by 17 Bristol board. So pencils, then pen and ink, and then that was a finished version. I walked away from doing artwork for about 10 or 15 years. I just stopped doing it. Not that I wasn't doing art, but I was doing different type of art in creating photography. And, achieved quite a bit there. Won Best Fetish Photographer at the Fetish Awards in 2017, 18, and 19. So I had some success as a fetish photographer. But about 8 years ago, just for whatever reason, I decided I was going to get back into art. And when I did so, I decided to go into digital art because I didn't have as much of a, to do art, you have to have kind of a studio area, and I didn't have that. And I also wanted to explore what some of the advances in doing digital art was. And by the way, that's not AI art. That's a very different thing. Yeah. AI art is sitting there and typing something into a computer, and then it, spontaneously generates something. Digital art is doing the exact same process that I did with a pencil and paper and ink and a brush. It's the exact same process, except now it's done on a pad with a stylus and using my computer. And what that did is also open up the ability for me to do color work as well, which was something that I didn't do back in the 90s, and allow me to do paintings and all. I mean, this cover here, I painted. So there's my artwork right there. And I also painted the background for that sort of thing. That's my most recent work. And that's done digitally. So it's done through a program called Clip Studio Paint Pro. And it's done on a tablet. Here's the tablet right here. There it is. Not very exciting. And then it's done without a screen, which is kind of unusual. Most of the people do their tablet has a screen. Mine doesn't have a screen. So I draw on the tablet and I look at my regular computer monitor. And that has opened up all kinds of worlds. So to answer your question, if I had to choose one medium, it would be digital art.
Now, you're doing photography too. A lot of people get in the kink community and they get the frenzy. I'm good at photography. I want to meet people. I want to take pictures of naked ladies in lingerie.
Yeah. Sure.
So how did you distinguish yourself from not being just the creep with a camera?
Yeah. Look, that's something that I've fought against. I have fought against photographers that came before me for my entire career. So, people who asked things that weren't agreed to, or being handsy, or, hitting on people, or being a creep or whatever. That's the sort of thing that I dealt with from the beginning and up till now. How do I combat that? Well, you can look at my work, which again, I won awards for my work. My work is in museums. They're in the Pat Pong Museum in Indonesia, and in the permanent collection of Indiana State University or Indiana University, and in the Leather Archives and Museum. I've won multiple awards. Besides that, my combat of that is the work that I have and the reputation that I have built over the past 20 something years. If there was a problem with the way that I treated my clients or my models, that would have come out a long time ago.
One thing about this show that I like doing, I want to inspire people, and the guests that come on, I want them to inspire people, and a lot of it is talking about the process. So with me, when I wrote the book, Your Kinky Friends, I put on the reigning sound. Your love is a fine thing every time. before I wrote, I played that, blasted that out.
Really?
And this,
Yeah.
the sound, and I like danced around my room like a weirdo, and got all amped up, right?
Yeah.
And I started that, and I started listening to the soundtrack in the book. So I play it on repeat over and over. So if I'm writing a song about, I'm sorry, if I'm writing a scene about, for example, I was writing a scene about a consensual rape scene called Baseball. It's in the chapter. It's called Baseball. And there's a song called "I Love to Hurt, You Love to Be Hurt" by Primal Scream. So I would just put that on over and over and over again on repeat, and just write the scene over and over again to get the vibe, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you write, I mean, that's just one of the many things I do as a process, but it's something I do over and over again.
Yeah.
What is your process like?
How much time do you have on this subject?
Well, are there
I
certain
into the
that
weeds.
you always do? Are there just like certain things that you always have to do, like almost OCD things, to get you into the vibe, the zone?
Yeah, I mean, talking about while I'm actually writing, when I sit down to write, I will take a note card like this, and I will write down certain things that I want to happen within a scene, about character arcs, about notes about things that I need to make sure that happen within the scene, and maybe a surprise or something that I want to put in there. And then I don't have a specific soundtrack. I've heard a lot of people do that sort of thing. What I basically need to do is to cut out the outside world. And so I have music that's playing that's very undistracting. It's just kind of background music. And most of the time I watch television while I'm working. I'll have a television on, or I'll have the radio on, and I'm listening to people talk, but I can't do that while I'm writing. So I just have some kind of electronic music or jazz or something on that kind of becomes like white noise to me to keep the world away from me. And then I have the lights pretty much kind of like how they are right now, except it'll be darker. It's pretty light on me right now with this ring light, but I'll have it darker in there, and so that I can kind of concentrate on what's happening on the screen. And I take a little thing. I take a little egg timer like this, and I will write in sprints. So I will go for about 25 minutes, and then I will write during that period of time. I won't touch my phone. I won't do anything. Then I'll take another 5 minutes, and I'll take a break. I'll get up and go to the bathroom, do whatever, and then I'll hit another 25-minute sprint. And I'll try to do that over and over and over again for as long as I have to write the thing. And what I found is that allows me to really focus in, really dial in on doing the writing, and try to have the same experience that people do when they're reading, and hopefully separate me from the outside world. Thank you, Miss Sweet.
Miss Sweet says Dirk is super fun to work with and extremely talented.
Thank you very much. I shot with her.
Miss Sweet's amazing. Please tell us
about a year ago, I think it was, or something. And look, she impressed me for a lot of different reasons. She's sincerely into this. One of the issues that I've talked about, trying to find someone who is who brings a lot to the deal, or who has experience or something. She has that, and she really enjoys that, and she's very creative. She's also just really a lot of fun to shoot with. She brought her own ideas on stuff. She was collaborative. But I think maybe what impressed me most about Miss Sweet is her authenticity. How much that, some doms are, it's no secret that being a professional dominatrix can make you some money. I know a lot of professional dominatrices over the years who are doing it specifically for that purpose. It's like they just, they do what's necessary to make a large sum of money, but then they take off the stilettos, and then they go home and they live an entirely different life. And maybe Miss Sweet is that way as well, but she legitimately enjoys being in the scene and being creative and trying to add a unique experience to the submissives that she plays with, and that I think is the greatest thing about her.
Shout out to Miss Sweet. And finally, we have the final question.
There you go. 2 years, she says.
Yes,
2 years.
2 years.
Time flies. Time
It
flies.
does. It really does. It's wild. So we're both going on this journey. You know, we're going on this path, so to speak, and
Yeah.
we're all learning. We have experience. We're teaching. We're educating. We're helping kinky people out. But we're still going on our journey. Where do you want this kinky path to take you?
Yeah, again, it goes back to the fantasy. I would like to find someone to walk this path with from now on. I'm still very much looking for that. If that doesn't happen, it's okay. I've had some great experiences over the years, and you know, something could happen tomorrow, or it might not happen for another 10 years, or it may never happen.
And that's the beauty of the kink community. It's the creativity aspect of it. So that means
even if I don't find that girl
creatively, you'll meet somebody.
Sure. Even if I don't find that girl, I will continue to both learn, because this subject, BDSM, is never ending. If you want it, if you want to learn, you can continue to learn forever. And I will also continue to pass down what I know. So are
there any fetishes that, like I said, I always say the kink rabbit hole goes deep, right? And there are things that I'm into now that I never was into before. What's kind of inspiring you these days? What's it piquing your interest? What are some new kinks or fetishes that you're kind of either interested in that you haven't tried yet, or that you're just getting into?
Never done pegging.
Ever? Yeah. Dirk Cooper has never done pegging?
No, never. All right. Never found the right person.
We got to get
Dirk Cooper pegged. As much as I'm into humiliation and degradation and going way down that rabbit hole, I've had plenty of scenes, and I've had 2 long-term relationships with women who were professional dominatrices. One was the type of person who was very much into positive domination, and again, that's perfectly fine. But she did not want to tear you down in that way. She wanted to have scenes for the purpose of building you up, okay? Which is, you can't do that with humiliation, degradation. You got to go down that path to do that.
It is weird. So it is wild, though. It can work. You can do the loving pegging, you know, the loving, nurturing pegging.
Sure.
Why not?
And then the other long-term relationship that I had with a woman as a dominant, she was very much into pain play, which I'm fine with pain play to a point, but I'm not really a masochist.
Yes.
If you rope pain play into humiliation and degradation, then that works better for me. But she really wasn't into all of that. She just was into giving pain. And so neither of my long-term relationships where I was with someone was really on target with what my deep desires was. Still had a lot of fun, still enjoyed the relationships. But so there's a lot of that that's still left out there. And I take that frustration and I put them in the books that I write. I explore that in the books.
Speaking of books, this is the final thing, the rapid fire recommendations. They don't have to be kink related, although they can be. Recommend a film.
A film. There was something on Netflix. It was, hang on just a second. Leave the World Behind. That was a recent film that I really, really enjoyed. Weird film, very, very slow burn, kind of a thriller. Really enjoyed that.
Yes. Okay. Recommend a song.
A song?
Yeah. Doesn't have to define you as a person. Just nothing.
I really like stuff by The Weeknd right now. I'm really enjoying that sort of stuff.
Okay. Did you like The Idol? He was in that show, The Idol. Kind of bombed.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't watch
You didn't see that?
that.
He was in Uncut Gems. The Weekend was in Uncut
Yes,
Gems.
which
That movie, that was good.
also an excellent movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
Safdie Brothers. Nice.
Yeah.
Good Times, another one that Safdie Brothers did. All right. We did the recommended television show.
I'm watching right now. I am about halfway through another show on Netflix called The Three Body Problem, and
Oh, I want to say that.
it is a book that was originally written. It has a Chinese author. It is a science fiction series about science, and I won't give away what because I'm kind of getting to the point where they're kind of telling you stuff, but it's super weird. It's about playing mind games and about science and about the kind of, you know, manipulating people, and it's really good. It's really good.
Recommended book.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Um, the best book that I read lately was Altered Carbon, which they made a series out of. I cannot remember the guy who wrote that. It's a cyberpunk book set in the future. It's about the general world building device is that you can download yourself into different bodies, and so people travel to other planets by downloading themselves into another body, and these bodies have abilities and stuff that are kind of baked into them if you have an expensive body. And then you have people who have lived for hundreds of years because they upload their consciousness to a server, and even if their body dies, they just download into another body. It's called Altered Carbon. It's poetic. It's thrilling. It's kind of a detective story. It's got some action in it. It's really good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Recommend a meal.
like a great meal that I had.
Yeah, just recommend a meal that I'm gonna have. I'd never dinner yet. What should I eat?
In Dallas, I went to a place with a date. We were going to go to a burlesque show. And in downtown Dallas, we went to a place called Eddie V's, which is kind of a steak seafood joint. When we drove up there, all of the cars that were in the parking lot were like Lamborghinis or Bentleys or something. Let's just say I don't drive a Bentley. I drive a Kia.
We'll forgive you.
So it was very intimidating to go into this place. Now, in this case, this was a deal where we were going to a show later, so I was dressed up. I had a suit on and a tie, and she was dressed in a fancy dress and stuff. We went in there. The meal that I had in that place was I had steak and baked potato. Mm-hmm. That steak you could have carved it with, nothing. I mean, it was just so tender. It was just absolutely spectacular steak, and the baked potato was amazing as well. They just brought all of the fixings and stuff. You put as much as you wanted to on it, and then for some reason, maybe because we were dressed up or something, because no one else was dressed up, even though they were driving there in Bentleys and stuff, and they were wearing polo shirts and slacks and shorts and stuff.
I do want to end it with this, in the fact that we were talking about the narrative and people getting deplatformed and keeping the connection together, stuff like that. So it seems like, especially with, I don't want to get political or anything like that, but it seems there's a lot of pressure on us to act a certain way, look a certain way, to be hidden, to hide our kinks and our fetishes,
sure,
our lifestyle. So in other words, books. They want to ban books. They want to take us off the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with the hatred narrative that we're evil? Kinky people are evil. We're from Satan, or we're here to corrupt the youth of today, or some shit like that. Or just what do you answer? What's your answer to that? For people who are like that?
Yeah, that's simple. It's my mission, and that's to do what I'm doing right now. It's educate people. It's to drown out the ignorance with intelligence. It's giving counter programming. And that's exactly what I have been doing since the beginning of my career, which is to present the reality of what's going on versus the narrative that stupid people have, or people with their own agenda have. Um, just by being here and answering these questions as honest as I can, and being open and forthright in presenting my art or my writing uh, to the public, and taking my own personal experiences and putting them out there. And hopefully, look, the things that I do, I want the kink community to be interested in. But my greatest hope is that someone that is outside the community and is interested in it picks up Dominatrix Boss and reads it all the way through and goes, wow, I've never even thought about doing something like this. I'm very interested in this, which is why at the end of the book, I put a Femdom resource list in there, which has books and websites and podcasts and information for people who want to find out more about the community. It shades everything that I have done since the beginning, and it's the things that I have planned to do in the future, which is to just counter the stupidity with intelligence.
Drown out the ignorance with intelligence. Wise words, Dirk Cooper. Buy Dominatrix Boss. Support Dirk Cooper. Support art. Support writing. Support it. Get kinky. Be out there. Support the creativity of kinky people.
It's brand new.
We need people like Dirk Cooper. People like him we're fighting the fight for us, for you to be kinky. So,
yeah,
support. Dirk Cooper, is there any final thing you want to say to everybody out there?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. You have a great reputation. You talking to some of the coolest people in this community, and I'm honored to be among them. So thank you.
I'm honored to be. Like I said, I've known ever since I just interest. You got the courage to go into the kink community socially. You were one of the people who were like, that's Dirk. I got it. And also it's a great topic of conversation. Oh, did you see that Dirk Cooper thing? People are talking about Dirk Cooper in dungeons. So if you need something to talk about,
I hope so. Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
Right on,
I'm glad to hear that.
Stay kinky, my friend. And everybody out there, stay kinky. It's going to be a beautiful week. Take care. And remember the cardinal rule, everybody. Be cool. Be kind. Keep an open mind. Take care.